Hey, it's Coach Josh here, training for Warriors Portland, and I want to talk about one of my favorite topics in fitness, actually one of my favorite topics in life, and that is motivation. Motivation and accountability. It's something that almost everybody asks me about when they first come into training for Warriors, and they want to know how to get it, they want help with it, they want to get plugged in, and I think that it's something that's poorly understood, and I wanted to get down into the weeds a little bit on this topic today. So motivation in its like simplest form, what's moving you, and if you think about your idea of somebody who's motivated, like picture them in your mind, that person at the office, or maybe they are on a sports team that you played, and there's someone in your family that's just they're super motivated, they're excited, they're enthused, they're imbued with fire and passion, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're just somebody who diligently goes into work every day and puts the time and the energy and the work into the thing that they want to create or they want to get out of it. Maybe you've seen somebody transform their body or start a business or put themselves through school while they're raising a kid. And how do they do it? How do they have access to so much energy that seems to be boundless, when sometimes it's tough to get out of bed in the morning. If you're trying to get started going for a run, it could be hard just to get up 30 minutes earlier than normal. So what's the deal? Why is it so easy for some people, at least apparently, and so challenging for the rest of us? And I want to get a little bit into the definition of motivation. So motivation, there's two forms of it. If you think about what gets you up out of your bed and what moves you in anything in life, you're moving towards something that you want, or you're moving away from something that you don't want. There's pleasure and there's pain, and that's the tension in everything that you do. And like even right here, sitting in this chair, if I whether or not I get up out of the chair is dependent upon how much pleasure and comfort I'm deriving from staying seated, and how much pain I'm going to be in if I don't get up and get a cup of coffee, or get up and go to the bathroom, or whatever it is. So the pleasure and pain are the two things that motivate us. Which one's better? I don't know that there is a better, because I have been extremely motivated in the past by both of these things. I'm really impressed at the kind of long-term energy source that fear really is for a lot of us in a lot of our lives. A lot of people that I know have spent decades working, motivated by the fear that they're going to be destitute if they don't show up to the office and give it their all, or that their family will go hungry, or that they're not going to be able to pay their bills, or something bad's going to happen to them. And fear could be a motivator in the fitness side too. You get that diagnosis from a doctor. You put on blood pressure medication for the first time, and it's in conflict with your identity about who you are, who you want to be. And so that fear that you're not gonna live up to your own expectations, that gets you moving. So fear could be a great motivator. There's nothing wrong with it. I think that over the long haul, our quality of life is higher if we're motivated by pleasure, things that we're excited about, things that we're excited to bring into our lives. So thinking about the business end of it, like maybe, obviously you want to earn money, but maybe you want to earn money so you can take yourself on a trip, or so that you can get a nicer apartment, or nicer clothes, or nicer food, or go to see a super cool show, and you're going to reward yourself with some concert tickets. And so these are things that are positive motivators, or pleasure-seeking motivation that also gets you moving. Same outcome, mind you. So whatever you're doing, the outcome might not necessarily change. The only time, and now we're going to get into the part of motivation that has to do with friction and how we lose motivation. And the only time that motivation is bad, or a motivation can be negative, is if it's not really yours. So there is a difference between being motivated by fear and being ambivalent about a situation. And what I mean by that is, everything that we do in our lives has a cost. So, like for me, like I'm trying to trying to be as lean as possible. But I really like beer. So I am not an idiot. It's not like I don't understand that beer is going to make it harder for me to be lean, right? It's not like I'm confused, or that it's not that I don't really want what I want, but I want two things. And there's a tension between the two. And that creates an ambivalence. And if our motivation is inauthentic, or if we change, so like, let's say that I want to be lean right now, so I decide to get off beer and lean out, and I get in really great shape. That's wonderful. And then in a couple years, I decide to take up microbrews again because I really like them. And maybe I still want to be lean, but my motivation has changed. My identity has shifted. Maybe I'm not so attached to being cut that I want to give up the fun things in life. So our motivations change, and it's important to be aware of things like that, or of our shifting concerns. Because what will happen is, a lot of times, in absence of our own motivation, we'll take somebody else's. So someone might, your parents might want you to go to medical school, or it might be convenient for you to date the same person for year in and year out, and it not actually be a relationship that's working out for you. And you might realize that, the reason why I don't have any energy to put into this is because I don't really care about the outcome. And your purpose, your inner fire, your passion is shifted, and you gotta acknowledge that. So friction, things that come up and sap your motivation or energy, is one, not actually having a clear, visible goal, or a goal that's in line with your purpose. So if you've got this goal to be in as great shape as possible, I'm gonna have six-pack abs. If that's not in line with the long-term vision for who you want to be, if that's not in line with how you see yourself in the world, then you're gonna have there's gonna be built-in friction to your path, and you're gonna be rubbing up against your own sense of identity and who you are, and the other things that you care about as well. So, when the irresistible force meets the immovable object, the thing with the most momentum usually wins. So you either got to build up some serious momentum for the thing that you want, the new North Star, or take it back to the lab and reassess your goals. The things that will get in the way, the friction that will come up and reduce your motivation, are not having a clear goal, not having a goal that's lined up with your true inner purpose, or not having the self-awareness to know what your actual inner purpose is, and where you want to be, and who you are. And that's I say that and I laugh, but that's actually pretty common, and it's worth asking questions like, hey, am I certain that everything is in line, if my long-term vision is in line with my short-term vision and who I am today? So if you've got all those things, other friction is other people's points of view and other people's perspective. So if your friends expect you to go to happy hour with them all the time, but you're trying to get in shape, you're probably going to have to let some people down in your life in order to get what you want. But if you care more about what other people want than what you want, well, that's going to create a problem. You got some friction built in there. So what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to reconcile, and you have to admit that in order to be who you want to be, you're going to have to let some other people down, and letting go of their points of view as your primary concern. That's going to free up some huge mental energy, and that's going to reduce your friction. Other sources that will sap your motivation. If there is pain associated with your goal, if there's pain associated, if there's suffering associated with with you getting what you want. This happens a lot in relationships where maybe your friends aren't the most supportive. Maybe your friends are maybe you're trying to get in shape and your friends aren't in shape, and they're trying to encourage you to have bad behavior. Or by bad behavior, I just mean like doing the same old thing you always do. Going to happy hour, staying out all night drinking. I know that's what I used to do. But so there's going to be there's going to be, if there's pain involved with your growth process, every time you make a decision to abstain from hanging out with your friends, I mean, that's going to cause you a little bit of pain, and that's friction built into your goal process. And that's might be something that you have to endure, or that might be something you have to negotiate with yourself, but that will address your motivation. But once you reconcile that, you're going to free up a lot of energy. So it's an opportunity there. Anytime there's friction, anytime that there's conflict, there's an opportunity to actually unlock some extra energy. So take advantage of that, and that's how you can really build some serious momentum in your quest for change. So, other people's perspective, lack of clarity, pain being built into the process. If you're associating pain with taking action steps, so that's a lot of times what happens in fitness is there's a pain associated with doing something new in the gym. There's a pain associated with looking silly in front of other people. Sometimes there's physical pain associated with exercise, like you have an injury, or you had a bad experience in the past where you've taken to try to get in shape and you got hurt. Maybe you injured yourself running, or you did something in an aggressive class and you got a minor injury or a major injury, and that can put a bad taste in your mouth. If you start to associate forward progress with pain, that's going to be extra friction, and that's going to be an opportunity to unlock some extra energy on your process. So we've got being motivated by pain to move away from something. We've got being motivated by something positive to move towards something. And basically, somebody who is taking consistent action and is enthusiastic about it, I mean, that's our perception. And by most of our perceptions, that's a motivated person. So one of the other things that you can do to increase your motivation is to apply gratitude to the process that you're in right now. So let's say you're trying to lose 100 pounds. Yeah, you have a lot of lifestyle changes ahead of you. You're going to have to do a lot of things that you've never done before. Maybe it's the way you eat. Maybe it's your habits around movement. Maybe it's your habits around sleep. There's probably a lot that goes into that. And you could have the perspective that everything's getting taken away from you. That your favorite foods you can't eat anymore. That you have to be on an eating schedule and have to be precise about how many meals you're eating and what you're eating every day, and making sure that you're getting in enough vegetables. And you could be of the mind that this is happening to you, that you have to do this, that it's being forced on you. Or you could be of the mind that you get to do this, that you have the opportunity to become more healthy, to change your life for the positive, and to bring yourself more energy, vitality, and longevity just by making different choices. And then you get to go through that growth process and unlock even more hidden benefits, like your own personal sense of empowerment that comes along with changing your fate. So all that can be a benefit, right, or a burden. And that has everything to do with your perspective and your mindset. Your mindset has so much to do with your level of motivation that, I mean, that you could, if that were just your focus, you could probably get all your motivation from that. All right, some other easy tricks. One, associate pleasure with the process. So set it up to where maybe you're working out with some friends. Maybe you're doing something you like to do. If you like to play a sport or do something recreationally, set up a standing appointment with yourself to play basketball 3 times a week or twice a week or whatever it is. If that's what you like to do, then maybe you should be doing that. Make it fun. Make it something you can do on the regular, and you've got some built-in rewards for your brain. And then the pain part, you usually don't have to apply too much, but if you want something simple, like some people call it a pain, but just investing in yourself. So you're paying that money to a gym membership, so you're paying it whether or not you go, and then you've got a little bit of a spur, a little bit of a needle in your side. It's like, hey, I'm already investing in this, might as well use it. That will get some people motivated. You can also do the thing where you write out a check to a political body that you despise and loathe, so like Nazi Party of America or something, and if you don't hit your 12 workouts that month, then your friend has to mail that check, or if you're Republican, mail that to the Democratic Party. If you're Democratic mill, it's the Republican Party, whatever it is, but it's like something that you would, associate a lot of pain with, and then you'll be committed to avoid the sword of Damocles and get that done. So, talked about external and internal motivation, where does it come from, and I want to end on a bit about accountability. So, accountability is often it's often misunderstood. A lot of times when we think about being held accountable, we think about being punished for something that we didn't do. It's like, how are you holding yourself accountable? How are you holding somebody else accountable? How do you hold people accountable, Josh? Well, my personal definition of accountability is bearing the natural consequences of your actions. No more, no less. So, oftentimes, being literally held accountable is just being measured. Hey, you said you would bench press 150 pounds by this date, and you did or you didn't. So all we're really observing all we're doing is witnessing your actions and the outcomes your action created. And sometimes that can be painful. And if you're failing in front of somebody that you care about, that you trust, that will be painful. I know it is. I've done it. I do that. Not often, but I've done that with enough times to understand that it is painful. What happens along the way is we start to beat ourselves down with negative self-talk, with what we think are logical observations, but is really just mental bullying that we put on ourselves. So what we'll do is, if we're late for workout, or if we don't get up on time, we'll start to beat ourselves up, and we'll say like, oh yeah, there you go again. I'm always lazy. I always mess this up, and this is just something that I always do. Screwing things up before we even get started. But in reality, that's not really being held accountable. That's just mental abuse, self-inflicted. And what that does is we start to get numb to our own voice, because you can't just hold somebody over a fire forever and they would melt. So we build up calluses and we get tough, and we start to forget, and we start to become numb and anesthetized to that kind of criticism. And then when we have our weigh-in, or when we have our strength test, or when we have our ability to be, when it's time to be held accountable, we step on the scale, and because we've been beating ourselves up for a whole month, we're numb to the fact that the number is heavier than it was last month, or lighter than it was last month, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And we're no longer, I won't say we're no longer embarrassed by our actions or lack thereof, but we've lost that sensitivity. So part of being held accountable is taking the judgment out of taking the judgment off of yourself and putting it back where it belongs, which is on the plan. When you're measuring yourself, you're not measuring yourself as a person. You're measuring the effectiveness of the plan that you're on, or your ability to adhere to the plan. That's what you're measuring. So being accountable is just being accurately and honestly measured. And hopefully it's, you're in a tribe that you trust, and you're being witnessed by people that you value, so that when it comes time to adjust the plan, or to get some critical feedback and make some adjustments, that comes from a great place, and it's being taken to a great place. But it's really easy to go really wrong with that, and maybe that's a whole nother video and a whole nother blog post. So, how to be held accountable: be measured, be witnessed. How to be motivated: act like you chose to do what you're doing. Have fun while you're doing it. Make sure you got some clear pleasure points you're moving towards, some things in the future that you're wanting. Obviously, hopefully you want your goal. It means something to you. You're associating something positive with it. And you've got some pain points that you're running away from. Those should be built in. And then everything else is just massaging the friction and sanding out the stones in the path, so that all of this can happen quickly and smoothly. And when you get good at that, well, Well, that might take a lifetime of practice, but anybody can get started, and there's nothing stopping you from getting motivated and bringing out the warrior within.